Well, hello. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Steve
Evans. I am here with Phil Dunlap from the Broward Cultural Division. He is the director. I'm trying to get my audio corrected, so we'll see if we can get that going. Phil, we'll bring in Phil. See if I can hear you okay. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Now I've got my audio. It was a little bit of an echo when we first started. Again, this is Dr. Steve Evans. I'm the editor and publisher of Outclick Magazine, and we are welcoming Phil Dunlap, who is the director of our Broward County Cultural Division. Welcome.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's the at-home edition of everything right now.
That's true, yeah. Yep. And I'm actually at home, and man, I need a haircut.
Services are opening back up soon. We went last night to one of the clubs here on Wilton Drive, did a live video. They are opening at 10 o'clock today, so they are very excited. So tell us a little about the Broward County Cultural Division for someone who may not be familiar with your organization.
Sure. The Broward County Cultural Division is a county agency or a division of county government. Your tax dollars do support our operations, but we are the largest investor of arts and culture here in Broward County, which basically means that we take public dollars and we figure out how to invest in the arts and culture community. And we do that through a number of ways, through grant programs that grant upwards of $5 million a year to Broward-based arts and cultural nonprofit organizations to help support performances, exhibitions of all different types of all the different art forms. We have a huge public art program that places art, either integrates them actually into county facilities or places art. So, for example, the Broward County owns the airport, owns Port Everglades. Any county building, you'll notice that there's always an art component that's integrated into the building. And then we have a number of community engagement programs, and we work to promote and support the arts and culture community through a lot of different marketing initiatives. So it's your public dollars at work. We are the designated local arts agency, so we are the biggest investor in arts and culture here.
Okay. And when you say arts, it's not just visual arts, it's all types of arts.
Correct. And we have to be very intentional on saying arts, plural. So the arts, not, sometimes we have a tendency to talk about art. And while music is art, dance is art, poetry is art, sometimes in the mind, at least, from a messaging standpoint, art singular tends to translate to people as in the visual arts, which is part of the arts. So when we talk about the arts, we think of it, we're talking about everything from, again, poetry, dance, music, theater, all those art, printmaking, all those different types of art forms.
Mm-hmm. You work with all kinds of arts. We work with, what are some of the groups that you work with, or what are some examples?
Yeah, so our grantees, our list of grantees is everything from the Stranahan House, which is, a historic house, probably one of the most important and oldest structures here in Fort Lauderdale, to the Museum of Discovery and Science, to New City Players, which is a theater company, to Slow Burn Theater, which performs out of the Broward Center, to Fort Lauderdale Entertainment, which is one of the gay men's choruses here. So the World AIDS Museum. So we do run the gamut. And when you say arts and culture, it's also not just arts, but also cultural components that are, again, like the World AIDS Museum, the Stonewall Archives and Library, Art Serve. There are a lot of different things that we lump into there.
I work with, yeah. It's the number of organizations that you work with. They're all listed on your website, and it's a very, very long list of organizations that you help. We've worked with several of them too, and they apply for grant dollars, and so you help them in a variety of ways. It's really amazing.
And it's in
the county.
it's really important to understand that I mean, and we're especially seeing this now with all the COVID-19 business, but even in good times, the arts live in a very subsistence, zone, hand to mouth, so to speak. Most nonprofit arts organizations have less than 2 months operating reserves, if even that. I think most symphony orchestras have less than 15 days operating reserves. So this is something that if we want around, we have to invest in, and it's very fortuitous of the county to take the lead and take the role and investing public dollars and saying that this is something that's important to us. We want it here, so we need to invest dollars in helping to ensure that arts and culture are present in our community, because it's not just a tourism conversation. It's not just to give something for tourists to do outside of the beaches and the restaurants, but it's also, people live here. There's 1.9 million people in Broward County. This adds to our quality of life and helps make this a wonderful place to live, is that cultural component. It's that cultural capital, that sort of non-tangible things that aren't roads and bridges and kind of, things that we have to deal with.
And I think that's an important point. There is so much to do here for both the tourists and the people that live here. And I love our beaches, I love our restaurants, I love our clubs. But on top of that, our arts community, whether it's visual, dance, musical, orchestral, whatever, there is so much to do here. I know our calendar is full with symphony and Broward Center and so many events. This is a very cultural rich community here, and there is a lot to do, and you can keep yourself busy every night of the week with small, large, medium events and all types of events.
I agree,
and
yeah, I agree, and one of the things, there's a lot of research that's done and has been done that shows how the arts can keep people here, just in the sense of, so if people travel here for business, there's a lot of research that shows that people often extend their stay a day if they're here for a conference or something else, in order to go and explore the art scene. So a lot of people may come here for the beach, or they may come here for business travel, but the arts is a way to capture those people and get them to spend more time here, spend extra dollars here, which is always good. So the arts may not be the thing that people come here in the first place for, but they can get people to stay. They also provide valuable opportunities, obviously, for people in this community to access the arts. That's what's great about a lot of our cultural institutions.
And it's what helps to bring people back for tourism. We work with the Symphony, we work with Island City Stage, we work with the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, Fort Lauderdale Gay Men's Choruses. So there's mainstream, and there's a lot of LGBT opportunities for arts for people to experience while they're here. So when they're looking for things to do, there's lots and lots and lots of opportunities that your office helps to fund, support, and guide.
Correct.
And so you also have a call to artists program.
Yeah, our calls to artists are mainly related to our public art. Our public art program, and public art programs are pretty unique, and they help enhance the built environment, is one of the things we say. So public art can be anything from an artist designed terrazzo floor, which we have many of those in the airport and in Port Everglades, to a freestanding piece of art that we have many in, again, Port Everglades, to a mural on the wall. But it could also be wayfinding signs, that help people find out where the parking garage is, or find out where entrances and exits are. Public art can also be functional in the airport. There's I think it's in Terminal 2. I think it's in Terminal 2, where the Southwest terminal. There's a children's play area, and that was designed by an artist. So public art takes many different forms, and our calls to artists serve as a sort of, you can call it an RFP or an RFQ, where we're saying, here's the scope, here's of the project, here's the budget, here's here's where it's going, here's where it's being integrated, and then that gives an opportunity for artists to submit their proposal. It goes before a committee that's made up of artists, architects, public art, division staff, and representation from if we're working with a county agency per se. And then they pick the artist, and then that artist works with the design team in order to help integrate that piece of art into the design.
Okay, we're going to pull that website up. Arthur's across the desk, and so he's going to try to pull that website up so he can see that. So then they actually get to display the final project after that. That's fascinating.
Well, and since it's functionally integrated into the building for a large majority of the work that we do, it's part of the building. So it's not in so much as displaying, and that's why I say we enhance the built environment, because if a building is being built, or a terminal is being renovated, or a road is being redone, we're actually building the art into the physical structure. And so it's not as simple as hanging a piece of art on the wall in a public space, which is certainly something that we can do, and that can be considered public art, but we're actually enhancing the built environment with art.
With art. Oh, that's fascinating. We're gonna try to pull up that website so we can show that.
Sure.
Well, just show on the website where it's the call to artists. I think it's on the main website. Arthur is across the desk. I call him Iraz for these shows because he helps with the website and pulling things up. And then you've got several professional development programs. We're going to pull that up too, that are really fascinating, provide a lot of resources.
Yeah, one of the main ones that we do is called, it has in the past been called the Artists Entrepreneur Institute, which is a program we've been running for quite a number of years, which takes artists of all art forms, of all varieties, all genres, and essentially teaches them how to be a business person, how to incorporate your idea into a not-for-profit if that's what someone wants to do, how to create a business plan, how to market. A lot of these aspects, because art school or music school, when I studied music in college, I have my master's in jazz piano, but I'm not a professional jazz pianist, at least full time. That's not how I make the majority of my income. And I know you studied music as well, and that's not what you're doing right now. But when you go to school for the arts, they're great at teaching you the craft of doing whatever it is that you're trying to do: play piano, play organ, compose, dance, paint, be a playwright, these kinds of things. But they're not so good at teaching you the business part of it. And when you get out into the world, you really are an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs have to deal with marketing their own product. They have to deal with creating websites. They have to deal with contracts and negotiations, and they have to deal with all these pieces that you sort of you're not really given the tools as much in art school. So the AEI program, which is the Artists Entrepreneur Program, helps teach artists how to be better business people, or how to be business people. We're pivoting a little bit this year, and obviously in the current state of things, offering it completely in the virtual space. So rather than our regular setup where it's 1 month on Saturdays for the entire day, we're doing a bunch of mini sort of modules in the virtual space. And it creates some opportunities, and you've probably seen this in offering your content, is that going in the virtual space, while limiting in some ways, sure, also frees you up geographically. You can now have guests that can join you from all different parts of South Florida, from the country, that might have been harder initially. And this is sort of done, provide the opportunity for the arts in general, has kind of forced us into this virtual space in a way that we haven't. So we're continuing our programming, our resources, our workshops, because that's how we position ourselves in an education standpoint, is by helping people be better at what they do. So helping artists be better business people, helping organizations be better businesses, because the nonprofit arts organizations, they are businesses. That's, nonprofit is a tax designation. It's not a business model. So organizations still need to know how to be profitable businesses, or they don't exist.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really valid resource. Right now, I know pivot is the big word right now, and moving things to online. And you've been a valuable resource to people who are trying. to move their concerts, their shows, their exhibitions to online. And we're going to speak on that change a little bit, but yes, that's a really great resource for people who are looking to not only just take their art, but also to you know, maybe make money on it, or how they can best manage it from a business standpoint.
You know, there was a study done by the Future of Music Coalition, I don't know how many years ago, and I used to use this when I was teaching music business back up in St. Louis, but basically said that there were, I think it was 43 different income streams that artists, or this might have been musicians specifically, but it's not dissimilar, use in order to make money. And it's not unlike what entrepreneurs in general use. You know, artists, musicians can make money from gigs, from commissions, from teaching, from selling royalties to their, you know, performance or displaying of their work, all different types of income streams that are available, but nobody teaches you how to do that. So we're you know, that's what we're trying to help people do with those resources.
Mm-hmm. This is the call to artist page that we were looking at before. If they go right to your home page, it goes right there to the call to artists. And then there's the grants funding page. And then there's the professional development.
Yeah, and it's important to know with our grants that we're one of the few organizations in the country actually that provides grants directly to artists. Most funding organizations tend to target their funding, and we target the majority of our funding to nonprofit organizations. So you have to actually have a 501c3 designation in order to apply for grants in most to most funders. But we actually do give grants directly to artists. So artists that may be listening out there, and again, when we say artists, this is not, you know, someone that's a hobbyist. This is not someone that likes to do this in their spare time, but someone that actually makes portions of their income, you know, from their art making or exhibition or performance. We actually do give funds directly to artists to support projects. Actually, and you pulled up these this website here. All of these pieces that are on displayed, you can see those are examples of our public art program. So the one in the middle is called Wavelength. I believe it's Wavelength. Sometimes I get it confused, and that's in Terminal 2 in the airport. The one next to it to the right is a piece by Alice Acox, which is at Port Everglades. I think Terminal 25, which is one of their new terminals. The one to the right of that is a designed walkway. It's in Terminal 2 in the airport. That's on one of those, next to one of those people movers. You know, those sort of those escalators that just go this way. And then there's a mural to the left on the Boys and Girls Club that was recently done. And I'll be honest, I can't really see the one on the left. It looks like, that's a piece that's next to the airport. There's a park that borders Griffin Road. So these are just a few of our pieces of public art, but we actually in Broward County have over 250 pieces of public art in the public art collection. So there's a lot that we've done over the past 40 some odd years in the public art space.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then you have the other big thing you have is the arts calendar.
Yeah, arts calendar was started, I don't know how many years ago, but as our way to help people explore the arts. You know, obviously there are the pieces of the work that we do that are more kind of the services that we provide. I'll say the calls to artists, the grants, the workshops that work kind of specifically with the arts community. But we also want to be a resource that people can come to us to explore and find out about what the arts are here in Broward. And actually, kind of a funny little story, at least funny to me, is I've been here just about a year. I came from St. Louis, Missouri, and as I was going through the application process to interview for this job, I wanted to find out what was happening in the arts in Broward. So I typed into Google, I typed in arts calendar Broward County, and this is actually what popped up was artscalendar.com, which is our arts calendar. So you can go to artscalendar.com and find out a lot about what's happening in the arts in Broward. And we're as comprehensive as we can be. All of our grantees post their events on here. A lot of other organizations put their events on here as well. So it's not just our grantee organizations, but you can find out about lots of things that are happening here. We've also got a great resource now that are sort of COVID-19 responses in the sense of virtual opportunities. So a lot of our museums, the NSU Art Museum, again, the Stranahan House, Museum of Discovery and Science, many more have put online programming available. And then we also have other opportunities that are available of virtual programming of our grantees that are available on Arts Calendar as well. Okay.
This is a very, very great resource. Let's make it full screen here so we can see it. So this is a great resource for people who are visiting or local both. It's amazingly comprehensive.
We like to think so, but we know there's always more stuff happening than we're able to find out. So anyone that has events, they can actually reach out to us through the website and get them placed on. We also have a program called the BAHA program, which is the Broward Arts Journalism Alliance, and that we actually employ journalists to write about the arts. We place those articles in different publications, but we also they write blogs that are hosted here on Arts Calendar. So if you go, the blog section has blogs written by a lot of our Broward Arts Journalist Alliance members.
Oh, nice. What since the COVID-19, what are some examples of people are doing? I mean, everyone is doing online, but are there some really outstanding ones, or what are some ones we should maybe be checking out?
Yeah, I actually I wrote about this in the most recent issue of Go Riverwalk magazine. I think that's the one that comes out for June probably. But arts organizations are always very responsive, and I think a lot of it has to do with just the dynamics of being an arts organization. You're always looking for new programming. There are always new funding opportunities to help come up with new ideas and help spur growth in your organization. So organizations are used to, I'll say, pivoting, as you said earlier. And yes, so many organizations are doing a lot of great things, but there are a lot of great organizations that are definitely standouts. And I'll mention the Museum of Discovery and Science was looking for ways to keep their employees busy while their doors were closed, and they've got the animals that need to be cared for. They've got their kind of hands-on interactive activities. So they started doing a lot of science programming that developed into all these science lessons for the school board. The Stranahan House is doing virtual tours every day, or virtual programming, not just tours. Art Prevails Project does an open mic night on Instagram Live every Thursday, I think at 7 p.m. And Slowburn Theater is doing programming. NSU Art Museum is doing virtual tours. And I'm not going to be able to remember anyone ever. ArtServe is doing ArtServe Live, which is hosting a lot of artist forums and workshops. And there's also some great regional resources. The Arts and Business Council of Miami is doing a lot of great programming as well. So there are a lot of great things that you can find out. You can find it on artscalendar.com on our site. But I'm very impressed with just how quickly and how well a lot of these arts organizations have taken a very bad situation and made some good out of it. So
yeah, we work a lot with the Museum of Discovery and Science. We work with a number of the ones that you've mentioned, but they have really done a phenomenal job with their videos to engage. And it's everything from science to reading to games to everything. Joe Cox and his team have really worked very hard at producing these videos and getting them out there. And like you said, they have live animals that they've had to take care of. So they've not been able to just shut down completely operational costs.
They've worked really hard to get videos out. you know, on that, it's like you know, and businesses are dealing with this in general, but just because the doors are closed, there are a lot of expenses and a lot of things that still have to happen. And you know, mods is just one, you know, example. You know, it's, you don't just turn the lights off and go home. And these organizations and their leaders, they're working 24/7 as is, you know, even before all of this stuff, and they've you know, worked even harder during this. And I know it's not easy for them, and we look forward to coming out on the other side of this and working with all these organizations to keep that, you know, very important programming happening. I mean, all the virtual stuff is great, but it's never going to replace the in-person experience of going to the Museum of Discovery and Science, or going to an art museum or a live concert. You know, we'll get back to that eventually, and but until we do, these are some great options.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed, like, on the Broward Center website, they already have shows predicted for the fall, so we'll be looking to see, you know, how that unfolds. And we watched some videos from Slow Burn Theater, and how maybe they're going to make some modifications to the scripts to do some live shows and see how that unfolds.
And I think smaller organizations are going to be a little bit more nimble in being able to change some of their programming. You mentioned Slow Burn, and other theater companies can and are looking at programming plays that have smaller casts and stories that don't have a lot of interaction between the cast, and doing them in venues that don't say have fixed seating. You know, because that's one of the challenges. It becomes a business decision, just like restaurants are looking at, does it make sense to open your business if you can only have 25 or 50% capacity? It's the same with arts organizations. And when you have seats that are fixed, you know, again, you look at the Broward Center, you've got, you know, 2,500 seats or whatever, you know, the large theater is, it may not make sense, you know, financial sense. You just can't even do it regardless of if you wanted to. So smaller organizations are going to have an easier time taking their programming into this more restricted space for a shorter amount of time than larger organizations. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
We've had
Broadway tours. Sorry, not to interrupt. Touring Broadway shows aren't going to happen for at least a year from this fall, and that's already just come down the pike. That's not me saying this is what I think is going to happen. The Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis announced last week or the week before that it was basically closed and not doing any programming until March of 2021. And what you're seeing, you know, because a lot of these Broadway shows or these bigger touring productions are tied to investors that are looking for a return on investment. And it doesn't make sense to tour these big performances if they have to be in restricted spaces that only are going to allow for half capacity or something like that. So you're going to see it's definitely going to be at least a year to a year and a half before the arts fully, I think, recover through this. And some of that is just due to the business nature of some of these larger, you know, performances. It just won't make financial sense to do some of these larger events. I mean, who knows? Maybe that makes space for smaller, regional and more community-based performances to you know, fill that void. And I think part of the interesting thing will be to see how do we then continue to support those local and smaller organizations through that. And then when these bigger, you know, productions and things come in, how do we continue to support those smaller organizations and not just sort of push to the side and say, thank you for, you know, tiding us over during this time. Let's, here's Phantom of the Opera again, you know?
That would, we'll pull back up that Slow Burn Theater. Let me see if Arthur to pull that back up again. Slow Burn Theater, for those that aren't familiar, they're a local theater company, but put on really high quality production shows. They were talking about their model and how they're going to try to roll that out. So there's some online videos about their kind of thoughts on what they're going to do. But that's fascinating about the Broadway. I not heard that about Broadway across America. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna really gonna see. You're not gonna see a lot of those big productions for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. And then we've talked with Jacqueline from the symphony about how kind of that's going to look, and they're looking at plans for the symphony too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is like
anything
an organization like Jacqueline's South Florida Symphony. Can you do things in outdoor spaces? Outdoor spaces. You've got great Esplanade Park down in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, that provides some great open spaces. Can you do things like have musicians with one stand instead of sharing a stand, and then spacing the musicians out? So there are ways you can look at doing it, but all these things have repercussions, and we're going to be seeing those repercussions, whether it's financial repercussions, whatever it is. But arts organizations are great at navigating troubled waters, I'll say, and I have great confidence in our organizations that we'll see everyone on the other side, or most of us.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Yeah. Well, is there anything else I haven't asked that you maybe want to talk about or tell our audience?
I don't think so. I will. One of the things we were able to do actually in helping organizations through this is we released a $450,000 fund pot of money to support arts and culture organizations. We called it a supplemental grant program, which is not the sexiest name, but it's kind of an arts relief grant for organizations to provide operating support. That deadline was this past Friday. We had about 40 organizations apply for support between $2,500 to $20,000. So and to support operations, which allows organizations to use them for staffing costs, things like that, because we want to try and help preserve jobs as best we can. There are a lot of aid programs out there for organizations, but not everyone was able to access the PPP loans, the EIDL loans, and things like that. So we were honored that we were able to, and thrilled that we were able to work with the county commission and the arts community in order to provide, we think, significant support for organizations to help them through this time. So
we've got a couple of comments. Bernard says, "Hey, Phil."
Hey, Bernard. He's a friend from St. Louis, great music teacher at Normandy High School. So, hey, Bernard.
Hey. And then Victoria.
Oh, that's my mother. Hi, Mom.
That's great. And then Phil says Starlight Musicals and Holiday Park with social distancing this summer, maybe.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. It's funny, things out in parks and especially during the summer are things that happen in other places of the country so much. And here it's always warm. There's always things to do outside. In the summer, it gets so dang hot. It gets so dang hot here. So I think these are good ideas. I think it's going to take some relaxing of permitting requirements, of fees and things like that. So, there are going to be compromises that are going to have to be made. Organizations are going to have to work in different spaces, like out in parks and things like that. And cities and venues are going to have to, look at how they can sort of relax some of those restrictions in order to make it easier for organizations to be able to do their programming in those spaces. But I love those ideas, and Bill Harris is a commissioner in Dania Beach, very supportive of the arts. And so, he's someone that's on the front lines of being a decision maker that can help make it possible for those organizations to be successful in those types of spaces.
It's going to take a lot of creativity for sure, things that we haven't thought of. I've said it's like trying to fly a plane and rebuild it all at the same time, because we're trying to hold things together at the same time, put it back together again. And everyone is in the same boat. So none of us can really complain, but we're all complaining to each other at the same time.
We are all in the same boat, but quite frankly, some of us are in boats with holes in them, and some of us may be clinging to the side of other people's boats. So, a lot of us, in the arts were creative problem solvers, and we don't like to be in these situations, but but the arts, I think, shine the brightest in times like these. And we look forward to supporting the arts and ensuring that on the other side of this whole thing, that there is an arts community for us all to, that there is an arts community to continue to brighten our lives. So.
One of the little bit of silver linings to this is that we have gotten to hear from and see people that maybe we normally wouldn't have. There's all of these video conversations we've sort of been forced into, but it's been nice to talk to people. We've gotten to see the kitchens and homes of celebrities and weather forecasters and all kinds of fun people. So we wouldn't have gotten to see that. We've gotten to see the living room of celebrities, and we've gotten to see video. There are authors and writers that I have followed for 20 plus years who have done videos. I've actually gotten to see them. I've gotten to hear their voice, and I've gotten to see their living rooms. There are other artists that we've gotten to see. So there has been a little bit a blessing to actually get to talk to people and see them in ways that we normally would have gotten to see. We've gotten to see celebrities' homes, and it's been fascinating. I hope this continues, this paradigm continues of these videos and these kinds of things to actually get to interview. And we've done some interviews as a result. There's some celebrities and vocalists and people that we've reached out to. And I was a little nervous doing them, but they've been fun. And it's been really great to get to reach out and talk to these people. And they've been just fun people. We've built a lot of additional relationships by doing these. And so we really appreciate you talking to us.
Yeah. And I'm always happy, to give of my time. And I think to add to that silver lining piece, I think it's forced a lot of people to really slow down and evaluate. And in that, you evaluate what's really important, to you. And time, if you think of it, time is the thing that we have that's most precious and valuable, because it's also the thing that we have the least amount of. And so I think we've really been forced to slow down and we've been able to give more of our time. So I hope as we come out on the other side, that people don't forget how valuable their time is and other people's time, and that giving of that time to other people is probably one of the greatest things that you can do. Yeah.
We thank you for that. How do we find you and the Broward Cultural Division online?
Broward.org/arts is our website. There you'll find, a lot of the grants and public art, a lot of the resources that we offer to the arts community, but you can then also find us and get to us at artscalendar.com, which is sort of the more public side, where you get to figure out what's happening tonight, what's happening tomorrow night, when you've got friends and family coming into town, what's happening in the arts community. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Broward Arts, and our Facebook page as well. We've got a lot of great things on all those platforms.
And your social media is at Broward Arts is your social media?
Correct.
Yes. And we did a really nice article on you. Arthur reminded me. Arthur's across the desk. If you have that link, we'll pull up that article. It wasn't too long after you came to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, it was probably about a year ago. It was. That was back when I had a haircut and had shaved my beard.
This is on our website. This is outlook.com/Philip-Dunlap. I believe we've got the link down there. So this was the interview we did with you back when you started, so it came to us. Yeah. And you go to a lot. I go to a lot of events because I enjoy them, and you go to a lot of events. You are not just the head of the organization. You support the events and go. So I appreciate that you actually go to the events.
Well, we not only support the organizations, but we're advocates. And I tell my team back at the division this all the time, and I very much believe in it, but we can't be just voices behind a telephone receiver or text behind an email. We've got to be visible and out, so that when people have questions and they think of the arts in Broward, they think of us, and there's a face and a person to associate with us, not just a website. So we try to be out and visible. Obviously now we're not doing as much of that, but I look forward certainly to getting back into the conversations and the performances and the museums and things like that as we're able to do it safely. I miss it.
Yeah. And last question that I ask everyone, what words of encouragement do you have for people at this point in time?
You know what? We'll get through this together, and I think that's the biggest thing is keep in mind that we'll get through this. There's light on the other side. It may not look the same, but we'll get through it.
We'll get through it. The Greater Fort Lauderdale CVB started the campaign before this that was Greater Together. And I think that's, it's been really even more so through this. So,
Definitely.
And you can look for us at outclick.com or facebook.com/outclick, or you can text OCQ to 22828 for more information on us. So, and Phil, again, we thank you for talking with us today and learning more about the Broward County Cultural Division. And we look forward to plays, shows, theater, art, music, drama, all coming back even more so.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, and thanks, Arthur, even though I can't see you, Arthur.
Yes. All right. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to it.
We'll see you. Bye.
Thank you.